My friend bought a super rare Sprint blue Audi RS4 from an auction. It's right here. It's got a few issues and it's been sitting for the better part of 3 years. Oh man, these wheels look so good. Are you kidding me? Look at this thing. I have to rescue this car for him. Look at this. Oh man, yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to probably machete our way past some of this stuff, but let's take a look. Oh, it's locked. But I got the key right here. Oh man, look at the seats, the blue inlays, the manual transmission, 6-speed, all-wheel drive, naturally aspirated V8 that revs to like 8,200 RPM. Is this the last of the good Audis? It's a 2007. This was only here in the States for 07 and 08. These are really the last ones that are naturally aspirated, manual transmission, analog. They just give you that raw, old school feeling. All right, let's see what we're working with. The issues have to do with this engine, but I don't think it's gonna be that bad. Oh man, you hate to see this kind of stuff. Hood shock's bad. And here it is, the direct injected 4.2 liter V8. And these are the early days of direct injection. You have your 2 high pressure pumps. And when this was sold at the auction, it didn't run the best. That was its primary damage. And that could have a lot to do with the direct injection system and so many other parts. We gotta see if this thing starts, and we have to check the oil. I forgot to bring a rag, but we have this, a paper towel with dead bugs on it. That works. Get this bubble wrap out of the way. I'll use my head to hold the hood up. And this has a dipstick. Thank you, Audi. It is very nice. Pretty sure I'm using dead parts of an animal to wipe this off. And what do we got? Hey, it's got oil. I mean, it's dirty, but it's got oil. Oh, and this was traded in a few years ago for a Tesla. This guy went from the raw driving experience of a manual transmission V8 Audi to a Tesla. That's gotta be kind of boring. All right. Yeah, obviously this thing is completely dead. It's got an aftermarket radio, WeatherTech floor mats, that's nice. I absolutely love these seats. Oh, it says RS4 in the back too. All right, let's get a jumper. All right, the battery is right here under the hood. Okay, oh, is this it's got a battery tender thing going on? Okay, yeah. Yeah, look at that. It's on the negative as well. All right, that's cool. I have the jumper hooked up and it'll usually read how many volts the battery has. It's got nothing. Let's force it through. There we go. Oh, she's alive. She's alive. Flashers are on. Okay. Wait a minute. Are there 2 stages of flashers? That is very weird. I've never owned an Audi, so I don't know if that's normal. All right, here we go. Neutral, clutch in. Nothing. It's not doing anything. Oh, now it's working. All right. Well, yeah, service. Okay, we know. And it thinks it's 2005. Oh, this thing is running so bad. Oh no. It is misfiring. Oh, it's smoking. It is smoking. I think it's got a pretty bad oil leak right there. Yeah, this is bad. This side is smoking too, and it smells like burning oil. Yeah, it's misfiring. Not running the best. It's okay though, the engine sounds great. And that's a good thing. The timing chains on these can be a complete nightmare. They're at the back of the engine. You could drop the engine for sure. But I don't think the RS4 had as many timing chain issues as the S4 and some other Audi models of this generation. But anyway, let's not talk timing chains just yet. We gotta fix this. We got flashing check engine lights, great. All right, we gotta see what that code is, and traction control lights. Now, hang on, sometimes, oh no. Now it's beeping at me. Sometimes you can get rid of the traction control lights by resetting. No, not this time. Great. It seems to be running a little bit better right now, and it's not flashing. Okay. All right, this battery is shot. It's running right off the jumper. All right, let's do this again. I want to get it out of all these weeds. Let's just do one of those and hope the cables stay on. I definitely need a battery before I try and drive this thing home. I'm gonna try and drive it home. I mean, to the shop. Woo. Clutch feels good. It's moving. We made it. Power steering works too. This is great. We gotta do a battery. This is not gonna work. I'm never gonna make it. Ah, there she is. Oh, doesn't look that old, but she's been sitting forever. Oh, wow, never mind. 2016 battery. Jeez, 8 years old. What is this? No way. Okay, so yeah, they don't come with a spare. So they give you that goo that shoots into your tires. Wow, this is like a substantial amount though. Yeah, and here's the pump that you hook it up to, and they give you little instructions. Very cool. And check this out. This has BBS wheels, and it does look to be a little bit lower, and yeah, it must have scraped on the inside at some point, and this is starting to rust. Definitely got to fix that. I don't know if we're going to be able to clean the rust off of these brakes though, and there's quite a lip. This thing's going to need new brakes. The wheels are a little damaged, but we can fix that too. We can fix everything, because just look at this thing. It is so sweet. I absolutely love this color. All right, I got a battery for it. Negative coming off. Little blow off vent tube thing coming off. Okay, you've done a great job. There you go. This one looks like it's been sitting on the shelf for a little while. Oh, these things are like $260. It's crazy. Oh, no spark. That's not good. Let's see if this works. I might have to jump it off and let it charge up. Oh, we got dash lights. That's a good sign. Oh, awesome. This battery works. That is sweet. This thing seems to be running better right now. It's smooth. No check engine light yet. These old German cars can go nuts if you have under voltage issues, and that battery was bad. I mean, it was running off my little thing. What are you yelling at me for? Reverse light, I don't care. We still have the traction control light. Yeah, that is not resetting it. Great. All right, this thing is running better, but it's like on and off. It's inconsistent. We're gonna give it some of the PI performance improver. This stuff really works well as kind of a heat. It'll remove water from tanks. So if you have really old gas, this works. And we know this gas is probably old. There we go. Drink up. Now, being direct injected, this is not gonna clean the valves, unfortunately, which are probably dirty on this car. We don't know when the service, we don't have any service history at all. So this isn't gonna help with that, but it'll help clean up the pistons if they have a lot of carbon on them. All right, maiden voyage back to the shop. Luckily, we don't have that far. It's about 20 minutes from here. By disconnecting the battery, we don't have any lights on right now except for a light bulb and washer, so that's good. This thing has 82,000 miles, and I just found that it has an S button. Oh yeah, look at that, now we're in S mode. Not exactly sure what that does, but it's S for sport, makes it faster. Wow, we're in third. So far so good on the old transmission and the clutch. Yeah, it's not running perfect, that's for sure. Oh, these brakes. Oh, they're so bad. They're making, oh, you guys probably can't hear that. It's like, I'll do it for you. That's what the brakes sound like right now. They're gone. I gotta remember that though before I ram into something. All right, so there's third again. Let's see, do we got fourth? We have fourth gear. Do we have fifth? Yep, and finally, do we have sixth? We have sixth, and it's running pretty well right now, I gotta say. I don't know why I'm jinxing myself right now by saying it's running pretty good, but so far, yeah. Kind of surprised. We're really close to the shop and we have a check engine light flashing. Okay, we got a bulb out too. All right, I'm shutting this thing down. We are pulling over. I don't like flashing check engine lights. We got a good spot here to scan it. Let's see what's going on. We got the Carly scanner going in. There it is. I carry a Carly OBD scanner with me whenever I pick up a car like this. Key on. Check it out, I scanned my Ford Taurus last with this. Let's pick RS4, 2007. Here we go, here we go. All right, we're in. This connects with a really easy to use app on your phone. We'll go to diagnostics, check for issues, and now it's gonna scan every control unit on the car. All right, 12 issues found. That's actually not bad. So we have 5 issues under engine. What do we got here? Low fuel pressure, that could be nothing. It's like an O2 sensor code, charging voltage, okay. To see even more codes, we can go to OBD Diagnostics. And here we go, random misfire, cylinder 5 and 6. We had that fuel pressure code. Let's check some live data. All right, here we go. Here's rail pressure. And there we go. That is actually within spec. On direct injected cars with low battery voltage and that are misfiring, I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. That looks fine. And this is really cool to check your readiness monitors. This will basically tell you if you're gonna pass the OBD2 diagnostic test for emissions before you get there so you don't waste any time. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and blow out these codes. Oh yeah, and it's immediately running much better, no misfire. All right, before we hit the road, I just wanna show you guys this used car check. This is amazing. It's gonna make sure the mileage hasn't been tampered with. And there you have it, Carly's detected no tampering. On some cars, Carly has the ability to code in convenience features. So I've used this to code in factory lap timers on Audis. You can even play around with active exhaust if you have that on your car. On some BMWs, you can't do one touch with the windows with the door open, so you can fix that and much, much more. So to check out what Carly can do specifically for your car, click on my link down below. The The free version of the app is great, but if you guys want to access manufacturer level diagnostics and also coding, there is a yearly subscription. So check it out down below. And the best part is, if you guys click on that link and use code LEGIT24, you're gonna get 15% off. Yeah, this is running really good now. I know I shouldn't jinx myself, but I don't suspect anything major with this one. I just think dirty intake valves, old gas, 82,000 miles. We'll have to dig in, but it's running pretty good and we're almost at the shop, so that's a good sign. Man, that thing is sweet. It's a Nismo too. Cool. Coming for you, buddy. Would the RS4 take out a 370Z Nismo? That thing is much newer, probably a lot less horsepower. I don't know. Looks pretty good. Oh, these Audis handle so well. We're almost at the shop. We got a blue Audi in the house. Man, this thing is gonna look so good in the shop. This thing looks good everywhere. I love it. All right, here she is. Bad hood shock and all. I'll have to get some vice grips for that. But I think we're gonna dig right in, guys. I think we're ripping this intake manifold off. Oh, and look at this. These coils aren't that old. 2020. So I'm gonna assume the spark plugs are good too. We will take those out. Right now, I wanna check out these intake valves. This was a very, very common issue with early direct injected cars like this, where they get carboned up. All right, let's lock this guy in place. You can tell I've used this thing a few times. It was set up to the perfect size. I'll take these covers off. Definitely have seen better days. Man, I wonder if this could be sanded down and fixed. A lot of these cracks are just in the clear. And we have this one too. There we go. All right, we'll start by removing the air intake and then hopefully not finding more rodent damage. Really hoping this is all they did. Here's our cold air induction tube. And I have to say, German cars have always been really clever at getting cold air from the front into the air box. So even on an air box like this, a lot of companies would go through the fender, which is decent, but they ran that tube from here all the way to here. It's kind of cool. And I love these red valve covers. I'm pretty sure these are factory. Next, I'm gonna unplug the mass airflow sensor. I have a PCV tube, I think, right here. A coolant hose to snap out. And another hose here. We're gonna get a good look at the air filter as well. I've found mice and dead stuff in there before. Okay, there we go. Anything dead? Dead or alive? No. Looks good. But this is usually where our furry friends go to die, right under the air filter. Anything? No, no dead bodies. That's weird. Usually that's just a great home for them. And this air filter, it's not even that bad. It's from April 5th, 2018. Shout out to people born in April. Anyone April 5th out there? Whoa, look at this gigantic throttle body. This is awesome. Very nice, I'll clean it for sure. Wow, that's part of that whole revving to 8,200 RPM. I cannot wait to string this thing out. It's gonna sound so good. Let's disconnect this big throttle body, and then we have this tube here going from the valve cover to the other valve cover. This is definitely PCV system. 10mm nut holding this on as well. And we've disconnected from here and from there. Get this guy out of the way. All right, Audi, I was complimenting you on your cold air intake, and then you went and did something like this. Look at where the oil filter is. Luckily, I'm taking all this stuff apart, and I'm gonna do an oil change anyway, but like, yeah, that's a bad spot. It's like there's a 10 mil here. All right, I mean, I guess this is pretty easy, but this hose is right here. We are making room all over the place. Just disconnected the purge valve. Let's get this out. There we go. Yeah, that looks good over there. Next, we have quite a few fuel lines to remove. There we get a little fluid. And let this thing sit, but we definitely still have some pressure. We'll soak it up. It's not too bad. There we go. It's all gone. Okay, cool. All right, that's loose. And these are all metal hard lines, so you don't want to bend them. This is exactly where it needs to be. With all the lines disconnected, we have 2 T30s. There's another T30 down here. I loosened it up. I'm gonna get it out with a magnet. Don't want this to go into the Audi Bermuda Triangle. Get out. Get out in the boot. All right, there we go. We can put this off to the side as well. Seems like a great spot to me. It's a little holder. Hey, look at now we can easily get to the oil filter, but we'll mess with that later. I want to get this intake off. It looks like you can remove the intake with the throttle body on, but it's just a few bolts and I want to take it off anyway to clean it, and it'll make it a lot easier to get to that right there, which is hanging on to the fuel lines. So that attaches the fuel lines to the intake. We can't have that. All right, so we have 3 T30s and one lonely 10mm stud on top. comes right off. Cool. Oh, it's actually really not all that dirty. Not that this would affect much. This is really nothing. But either way, we'll give it a nice cleaning. And look at the mouth of the beast. Actually, the throttle body is the mouth. The intake's the stomach. But I gotta say, for 82,000 miles, this is really clean. So now we can get to that screw, but it does look like you have to take the throttle body off because we have a hose right here. You wouldn't be able to get to that with the throttle body on. So we'll go ahead and remove this clamp. I got the clamp down. Let's see if this hose is gonna play nice. Oh, it's gonna play really nice. Sweet. Got this loose with the quarter drive. Please don't fall, please don't fall. Gotcha. All right, perfect. I've probably forgotten something, but I believe this intake should come out now. We just have to loosen up all of the intake bolts like these, but they all seem pretty easily accessible. So we'll go in here and loosen these up by hand first. You shouldn't use too much torque. Oh yeah, very nice. I'll get this side as well. That one's kind of loose. Oh, such a good sound. Don't you love clicks and like cracking sounds? Well, not like bad cracking sounds, but like that kind of cracking sound when you're working on a car. I love it. I wish that could be a ringtone. I spoke too soon on having removed everything to get the intake out. I had to move this harness over. I think it'd be easier to remove this bracket. A couple of T45s. All right, now we can get to these bolts. And with everything loose, we can do a little zip zam zoo, as we like to call it here. And just like that, this intake is very, very loose. I'm gonna go around and just pull these bolts so they don't act as studs and hold this thing down. Should be all the same length while you're taking bolts out. Just make sure they're the same length in case you need to mark something. But these look all the same so far. Yep, and yep. Well, I definitely forgot some, and this is why if it's not easily coming off, don't start ripping it off because you might break something. In this case, part of the PCV system, this big plastic canister, it's attached to this bracket that's attached right here. Kind of a pain in the butt spot, but I did manage to get this one loose. We'll have to do this by hand. All right, guys, you pretty much need a tool like this with a T30 to get into this tiny space. Then once you get the top one, this moves out of the way. I don't know why I said this intake manifold was gonna be easy. This kind of stinks. I've seen online that you're supposed to take this whole entire PCV box out, which has like 5 screws in there somewhere. But I loosened up this bracket instead to try and weasel it. I think that'll work, but then we have these fuel lines getting in the way. We have a couple connectors in here that I just had to disconnect from the front. And it's so loose, but it's hitting everywhere. I had to disconnect this hose from the booster. It comes out of the firewall like that. That keeps on getting in the way. I've had to disconnect a bunch of tubes from underneath here. I do think I'm gonna have to remove this PCV box with all this stuff disconnected and the intake moved forward a little bit. I can get to these, at least this top one right now, the easy one. There's one down below. All right, I got this one. Don't fall. Going in the cupcake tin. I think I got it, guys. Oh, yes, yes. All right, please just pull out. I hope there's not a 5th one. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, so that should be kind of better. Oh, maybe we can just remove this all together. Oh, there's a hose going to it. All right, whatever. We'll leave it right there for now. I think I might have it all. Probably not. You were supposed to be easy. Oh, did they just give you just enough room? I had to disconnect some vacuum lines. This is a variable intake. It has flaps for the runners. Come on now. Oh, don't tell me that high pressure pump's gonna get in the way. Oh, little twistaroo. There we go. Oh, something's definitely stuck. Ah, it's on the bottom. Just one hose for the variable runners. Okay, easy. What else you got, RS4? Nothing. You got nothing. Just kidding, you had a lot. Whoa, this thing's pretty dirty. Okay, so you guys have seen lots of BMWs and stuff on my channel and complications and whatnot, but I mean, look at this, guys. What in the world? There's like 50 lines and vacuum lines and wiring harnesses and wow, that's fun. Okay, but anyway, here are the gaskets for the intake. Sweet. We'll take these out. And then we have these little runner flaps right here that I can hopefully remove easily because we need to clean those. Nasty. That'll definitely hinder performance, but this thing is going to scream. Once we clean up those valves, we run a little bit of engine flush through the oil, which will get rid of some carbon around the rings and whatnot. We'll take a look at the plugs. We're gonna get this engine running. It's gonna just hum. Is hum a good word? I don't know. It's gonna do some awesome 8,200 RPM things. 8250. All right, first step when you're cleaning valves is just vacuum stuff up. That's around. You don't want anything falling into the cylinders. Just have some leaves and whatnot. No big deal. And let's pull these guys out. All right, just gonna get all these out of there. All right, guys, so here is what the valves look like before. They're all pretty bad. I've definitely seen worse, though. So let's remember this. And now we're gonna do an experiment that I've wanted to do for a while, a chemical competition, if you will. We're gonna put a bunch of these against each other and see which one cleans the best. And really, none of them outside of this are meant for this job, but I'm just curious. I went through that and just picked some stuff out that should break up carbon. So this is a treatment you normally spray into the intake while it's running, and it's got a picture of a really bad valve and a really clean one, so that should win. This is engine flush. You literally are supposed to put this in the engine oil. Performance improver, that goes in the gas tank, and it does clean up carbon and pistons really well. And then we just have brake clean, and I'm gonna try penetrating oil too. All right, but the first thing that we have to think about before cleaning valves, and that I want you guys to understand, is that these valves are open and these valves are closed. We can only clean the ones that are closed. And if you're wondering why these intake valves get so nasty in the first place, it's because similar to a diesel engine, a direct injected gasoline injector injects the fuel directly into the cylinder. That was the weirdest way possible I could have said that, but basically the fuel is not hovering over the intake valve like on a normal port injected vehicle. And so fuel, which is a great cleaner, doesn't clean the top of the valves off. Direct injection is great for a few things like reducing emissions and allowing you to run lower octane fuel, because direct injection runs at a couple thousand PSI instead of about 50 or 60 like port injection, and with that comes better atomization, and they can really precisely fine-tune the timing of the fuel injector event to reduce pre-ignition. That happens when the piston is going up and it pre-ignites before the spark plug wants it to. With direct injection, they can wait and time that fuel until the very top, so it greatly reduces your chance of pre-ignition. So anyway, great system. It works amazing at reducing fuel consumption and decreasing emissions, but you just gotta clean these intake valves every so often, sometimes like every 50,000 to 100,000 miles, really depending on how good your PCV system is. So basically this is like a factory catch can. It's supposed to catch a lot of the oil vapors from the crankcase, but they just don't do the best job, especially on these older ones. And those oily vapors from the crankcase will get sucked into the intake and cause your intake valves to look like that. Catch cans are awesome on direct injected vehicles. I highly recommend adding one if you want to drive one of these things for a long time. Let the experiment begin. We're gonna do the intake valve cleaner on this. So we'll just saturate everything. Nicey nice. Put that there so we remember. We'll do the engine flush on this guy. Just pour a little in there. We got the performance improver on this. Glug, glug, glug. We're gonna do straight up brake clean on this guy. Let that build up a little bit. This is the OK brake clean. It's non-chlorinated, so it's like the newer stuff. It's supposed to be like environmental or something. And on this side, we'll use the penetrating oil. There we go. All right, so now I'll let it sit for a couple of hours and we'll use a scraper and kind of see which one works the best, which valve is the cleanest, and comment down below your guess to which one is gonna work the best. And guess which one's gonna work the worst too. I don't know. Brake clean I would normally go with is working really well, but this is kind of like the weak stuff, so I don't know. While we wait, I've taken a wheel off so we can take a look at the brakes and these cool wheels. So we have some BBSs. They need a little refinishing work, but the tires are actually good. I think they were new when this car was just left, but I do not think these are gonna clean up. These are expensive two-piece rotors, and the pads are just okay. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might be lowered, or are these factory? I gotta say, this car sits pretty low, but let's go up and see what it looks like underneath. All right, pan's coming down. I lost a little bit of coolant, just a little. There was a hose in the back of the intake that I had to remove, and I lost some. Well, we're gonna need to get to this harmonic balancer in order to spin the engine over eventually, so it's nice we have access. But here is our oil pan, oil level sensor. This is all just coolant that I spilled. It's not differential or transmission fluid or anything. We still have factory catalytic converters, which is nice. And do these come with these? Look at that, it looks like straight up headers. Wow, look at that. Let me know, are these the factory exhaust manifolds on an RS4? It's very possible. But yeah, outside of the coolant that I spilled, it doesn't look to have any leaks. Man, it's bone dry. We got cobwebs here. Oh, wait a minute, Miltech. Hard to tell, but it says made in England. So, okay, so this is aftermarket right here. So maybe, no, these are Audi cats though. Okay, yeah, it just bolts on right here. So this is a cat back. So from right here on is all aftermarket. We saw the tips earlier. So that means we have Miltech mufflers, and yeah, that's why this thing sounds a little bit louder than factory. Differential's not leaking. We'll check out the center support bearing, that is tight. And I looked over all the joints and all the axle boots, they look good. I gotta say guys, so far so good. I'm really not expecting anything like out of the ordinary on this one. It drove over here just fine outside of the check engine light issues, which, you know, is probably bad gas and you know, dirty intake valves and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. This is a nice car. All right, guys, our chemicals have been sitting for many, many hours. Let's see what we have now. And this is my arsenal of tools. I bought an injector seat cleaning kit for a diesel. This was for my old Mercedes CDI. This works great in cleaning really anything. And then just a bunch of various picks. All right, so that's what we're looking at right now. That stuff definitely looks gooey. So the big test will be the goo test. How gooey is this beautiful, beautiful carbon? Yeah, it's pretty gooey. It's a nice little chunk. That's what we're dealing with, people. I mean, there's gonna be big chunks. This really does block airflow and can cause some serious issues with performance. Bad goo. Next, we use the AMSOIL engine flush, which is still in here. Wow. Am I getting any goo chunks or is it all just melted away? Let's suck this out. Get this stuff out of there. Oh, black goo getting soaked up. You know what, let's just get all this stuff out. This is the performance improver. That's what it looks like without the fluid. Nothing has disintegrated it so far. I'm yet to find a chemical that will just melt this carbon into a liquid and then you just wipe it clean. I haven't found that yet. So we still have to go in and scrape out stuff like that. Oh, where'd it go? Don't hide from me. No, I gotcha. Sometimes you gotta stab it. So AMSOIL engine flush just did okay. This one I'm kind of hopeful for. This is the performance improver, so it's meant to eat carbon alive. I gotta say, this looks pretty promising. The stems look pretty good. It is so hard to focus, guys. Just watch the bloopers at the end. There's probably gonna be a bunch of them where I'm doing stuff like, focus. This is horrible. Oh, there we go. It's right there. Don't lose it. Okay, wow. I gotta say, this is nice. It hasn't completely disintegrated it, but it's just flaking off so easy. And look at how shiny it is underneath with just a quick pass. So far, the AMSOIL Performance Improver is my favorite. This is the brake clean one. I didn't have high hopes for this, especially with that weaker brake clean. Yeah, this is pretty tough to get off. Last but not least is the penetrating oil, also the most difficult to film. Okay, not bad. Not bad. This is pretty on par with the engine flush. It's pretty gooey and coming off easy, but yeah, not nearly as good as the PI. Like, see the stem? It's all caked up on the stem. The stem on the other one was pretty much clean. With the performance improver, that stem is really nice. And this stuff is just, it's goo. It's not chunks like we saw before. See how gooey it is? That's beautiful. There's nothing hard about it, it's just mush. So far, my recommendation is the AMSOIL Performance Improver, but I have used the GM Top Engine Cleaner as well, and that had similar results to that. So that'll work really great. The AMSOIL will work really great, whichever one you could find for cheaper. But yeah, let's clean that out. We're gonna use some brushes now and see how nice we can get it. And you can walnut blast intake valves as well. I've done this on a few cars on the channel, including my Ford Taurus. Works great, but I like to show this method a lot because it's more DIY. You just buy the chemicals and some brushes and you're good. You don't have to buy extra equipment and walnut shells all over the place and stuff like that. All right, so now I'm gonna go in there with various brushes like so, and we'll go all the way around and make this nice and shiny and clean. Scrub-a-dub-dub. Can't believe it's still focused. Yeah, I've got no chunks. It's just simply goo. That is awesome. I love it. At this point, you want to get out some kind of eye protection. We're just going to use the brake clean mostly for the pressure in the bottle. We'll just use a very small amount. I barely did anything to the valve stem. This is so cool. Look at that. And then I'm going to use a microfiber with a screwdriver just to stick it in here and soak up our brake clean, and we'll see what we got. No way. Are you kidding me? Look at the valve on the right. That's the one I kind of soaked up the most. Beautiful. That usually takes a ton more effort, but this stuff really did melt it. All right, guys, I am all done. It looks so good. So this is what it looked like before, with gigantic black craters just there to block air and to prevent this engine from revving to its full potential of 8,250 RPM. We went from that all the way to this. And here we go. Look at that. Look at that. Look at how clean it is. It's like brand new. This stuff worked so well, I'm not even gonna waste any time scraping away. We'll just pour a little bit into all the other ones, and we'll get these all cleaned up. Oh, and check it out, we got parts. So I have the new intake gaskets. I ended up getting a new breather box and some spark plugs and some other things. But this was about $100. I highly recommend you replace it, you know, while you're in there, because with the intake off, it is way easier to replace. I don't even know if it's physically possible to replace that without getting the intake off. I'm not sure. I kind of don't want to know, but it's original and those do fail, and then you run into PCV issues where it will carbon up your valves even sooner, and you do not want that. So I'm gonna get to work cleaning the rest of these. I'll show you when I'm done. And then, yeah, we have to take these valve covers off and replace the leaking gaskets. This is pretty cut and dry too. You can see the oil right underneath the valve cover. It's just time. All right, passenger side is all done. The intake mating surface is cleaned up. All the bolt holes have been blown out. You don't want any liquid in those. So we are totally done with this side. Anytime you're not working on one of these, just cover it up, tape it off, whatever you gotta do so nothing gets in there. So we have these two cleaned and we just have this one and this one left. That means we need to turn the crank. That is a lot easier said than done. I have the Allen socket on there and there is basically no room with the fan. So we're just gonna give this a very quick starter bump. Before you do that, you always just wanna take a look inside of every port just in case you drop something. So we are good to go for a little starter bump. These valves are closed, so we can put a little bit of PI in there and it's not gonna disappear. We'll add a little bit more to this one. All right, so while that is doing its thing, we got valve covers to do. All right, so we have our intake ports covered up and protected, and it does look like they designed the valve cover around the high pressure fuel pump, so hopefully we can just remove this without removing that. I guess we're gonna find out. Audi engineers, fingers crossed that you thought of us. Technicians, our lonely technicians. All right, so we have a wiring harness to move out of the way for the coils. So far, I'm very impressed with the Audi wiring harness. If you have a little pick tool that helps, you can kind of release it. So you have to do all of them and kind of shimmy them down because they're all connected. Once you're confident you've moved the clip out of the way, you kind of just pull out. This one's a straggler. There we go, cool. And these coils just pull out. There are no bolts holding these in. Yeah, and these are 2020 coils. They're very new, Bosch too. They're not the cheap ones, so that's a good sign. I'm gonna assume that they did the spark plugs as well. I bought new ones just in case, but they are very expensive. So if these plugs are new, we're just gonna go with these plugs. There's that, and that, beautiful. Oh, not beautiful. That definitely could have been causing some of our intermittent misfire earlier. And that's from the valve cover leaking. So with valve cover gaskets, when you see them seeping externally, and sometimes it's not that big of a deal, you don't know what's going on with your spark plug and your coil. So if you have an intermittent misfire and a kind of exterior leak on your valve cover, just do them. Do them because, yeah, you don't want that. Let's take a look at our spark plugs. Hopefully they've been replaced. What do we got? What do we got? Ooh, yeah, that's a little dirty. Not the best. This one looked the same. Oil, more oil. Ah, look at that. Ooh, man. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that we had a combination of probably some old fuel and mostly spark plugs that had oil all over them. That's probably what our intermittent misfire was. And sometimes when you get oil on the plug, it just mostly misfires when you first start it up and then it kind of cleans up. So anyway, that is most likely the issue. And my friend actually bought this from the auction like 3 years ago. I saw it when he first bought it. But it definitely wasn't one of those cars with like 8 million warnings that the engine's bad and stuff. It just had a lot of typical wear and some rough running, issues. So that's about it. And this is honestly very typical at 82,000 miles. So I'm not exactly sure on the age here of these plugs, but I don't care. I have some new ones. And I always like to check the manufacturer for part numbers. So there she is. We're going with the ruthenium, or you can do the lasers. There is so much debate on spark plugs. It's insane, but I've used ruthenium, especially on Euro cars a bunch of times, and it works great. But either or, as long as the manufacturer says you can use them, you're gonna be good. All right, now we have a bunch of T30s to remove. All right, I have all of the screws loose, and this thing should come right out. Oh, beautiful. Yes, totally cleared that. That is awesome. Here are our dual overhead cams. Yeah, you can see how bad that valve cover leak was. Look at it's all puddling up underneath here and then burning on the exhaust. We can get somewhat of a look at the exhaust right here. I don't know if that's factory, but I do know that these cam lobes look absolutely beautiful. And I know that the timing chain and everything is on this side. Not on this side. Not that it really matters. There's no room either way. This is a prime candidate for the engine flush. Normally you just pour this in where you pour your oil, but since we have this exposed, it's just fun to do it this way. Once we get everything wrapped up, we'll run this for about 15 minutes with the flush and then do an oil change. This is the part of the valve cover that fails and gets oil all over your coil and ultimately your spark plug. Oh yeah, these things are hard. Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, it just broke. These are done. It's a 2007, so, makes sense. Oh wow, yeah, it just broke off. With the old gasket off, we can just use a little brake clean to clean the valve cover. Beautiful. If you guys don't want to use a ton of brake clean and you have one of these cheap parts washers, you can bring it over, dip it in whatever solution you're using. And this is a nice option. Mine looks a lot worse than it is. It definitely needs a little bit of a cleaning, but these can definitely save you a ton of money over time without having to use $5 cans of brake clean all the time. Scrub-a-dub-a-dub. Passenger side valve cover is done, looking brand new. So now that this is looking pretty, we need to clean up a little bit in here and make sure the mating surface doesn't have any remaining oil on it. And I will say the best man for the job here is brake clean. That works the best. Watch this. Nice. Now I'm gonna cheat with a little bit of shop air. I know everybody doesn't have this, but it works so well. Blow that all out, dry it up too. Here's what the mating surface looks like after a little bit of cleaning. And now we have our nice new valve cover ready to give us at least a decade of service, I would think, something like that. I mean, at least until it starts seeping just a little bit. All right, give it the old pat down, make sure it's seated in its groove. I think we're good. Beautiful. With everything super clean, we can go ahead and reinstall. Just make sure you're not getting caught up on anything and you don't move your gasket over, but this is pretty wide open, honestly. This is easy. I've started all these by hand, so now we can zip them down gently. Don't want to actually tighten it with a gun. This will just save us a ton of time because there's like 30 screws that hold this valve cover down. You'd think with so many screws it would never leak. With everything snugged down, we can torque. Got the quarter drive out. This is 7 Newton meters. Very, very little torque. Don't break your beautiful red RS4 valve cover. And these do look to be factory, kind of a cool little touch, I'd say. Down with the satin red, I like it. I don't suspect anything wrong with this engine at all, but you know I love my borescope. This is one of the cylinders that had the very bad leak around the coil, and you can see the oil has entered in. The cylinder walls look fantastic though. These are coated, and as far as carbon buildup on the piston, not the worst, that's for sure. Here's one of the pistons that doesn't have a ton of oil, and yeah, not bad. And you know once we're done, we're giving this the old Italian tune-up, 8,200 RPM style, and with the cleaner in the tank, it should help clean up these pistons a little bit, although that's not gonna cause any issue at all. Totally normal at this mileage. New spark plugs are going in, and these are the style that have a crush washer. Of course, we're gonna start this by hand. If you're super careful, you can use your gun just to bottom it out, like right there is good. And we're gonna go about a half turn. So it's about a quarter and another quarter. That's all we need. And the reason we know that is most spark plug boxes tell you exactly how to tighten them. So you can see here that it's 1/2 to 2/3 of a turn. Next up, we have the coils, but we're not gonna reinstall oily ones. We're gonna clean them. And I'm using a little bit of electrical contact cleaner. The oil isn't gonna really damage the coil. You can simply just clean it up. With the coil all cleaned up, it is ready to go back in, and I like to use a little bit of silicone spray on the rubber, and that just helps it slide onto the spark plug easier. And I'll push that down. Now with the coils installed, we can go ahead and plug in our wiring harness, our very awesome Audi wiring harness. Love it. And these all have a nice click to them. Beautiful. They even have little screws that hold the harness in. And just like that, our passenger side bank is complete. Not only did we fix this oil leak, replace these spark plugs, but all of these valves are cleaned up. So what we have left is this, you know, kind of dirtier looking valve cover. And I believe the only difference here is gonna be we have to remove this coolant tank. Not a big deal though. Other than that, it should pop right out. Hang on, before we tackle that, let's check on our valves and see if we've got any goo yet. They're totally submerged right now. What do we got? Oh yeah, oh, that's very gooey. Look at that, it just breaks it up. It eats it alive. That's so nice. Soon those will look like these. I think there's just one screw right here, and then this thing should just tilt up and pull out like that. Cool. Looks like that's the only difference. You can put the coolant tank aside. A little bit more difficult on this side. There's that in the way, but yeah, this should be fine. You guys already saw me do the other side, so I won't show you this other side unless something cool happens, like something breaks. All right, guys, nothing has broken. It's going well. Cleaned up the valve cover. That's looking good. But I just realized something that I wanted to show you in case you're doing valve cover gaskets yourself, and that is this. So I put the new gasket on, and I noticed that it won't sit down right in there. And I dug the old one out of the garbage, and it looks like they come with a little slit made and this section chopped out. That's probably because a very similar valve cover was used on another engine. So instead of making two totally different valve covers, you were to cut that out and just make this one work. Looks like they made one of the snips right here and one right there. So that's been cut out. Get rid of this old one. And now this will push right in like that. Okay, perfect. I thought they had given me the wrong one, but we're good. All right, other than modifying the valve cover gasket, this side is done. I'm gonna leave the coolant bottle out of the way for now. It might make it easier for us to deal with the intake manifold. Let's clean up those last 2 valves, and by 2 I mean 4, and then get our amazing looking Audi intake manifold back on. I love the red, I love the gray. They choose really good colors. And the paint as well, awesome. Just a great color combo. All right, everything is cleaned up. All of the valves are clean, the mating surfaces, bolt holes, everything is looking pretty. We're almost ready for the intake manifold, but I want to swap out this little vacuum box, and it's just one vacuum hose that I already loosened up. There it is. So I got the exact same brand, although it is an updated part number because they probably made this a little better. These did fail, but all we have to do is swap over this bracket. All right, so I'll put it on there. Then we'll tighten this guy up. And it looks like we just have one elbow to swap over. There we go. Snap this guy on, and we're good. Ready to go back on the car. All right, here's our new part. And it just has one connection to a vacuum line that runs underneath the intake. It is in mint condition. Normally I would replace stuff like this, but it's perfect, it's brand new. It's almost like maybe someone else did it at some point, I'm not sure. But I'm gonna replace the clamp with a factory style Audi clamp. There we go, little snip there, and she is on. Took a little piece of my glove with it. Last thing before we clean up the intake would be to clean up these dividers for the air intake flaps. These should be really easy though to clean up. Oh yeah, beautiful. Little wipey wipe. Oh, these are gonna clean up great. I'm all done with the intake dividers. So they used to look like this, and now they look like this. And you can go crazy with a wire wheel and get off some of the staining, but that's all this is. Some people on YouTube would do that just to make a really crazy difference between the two. I just wanna show you guys some real world results that are totally fine. You can't feel this with your finger. It's literally just the metal is stained. So, you know, if you want to take a wire wheel and make this shiny and polish it out, you can. It would make no difference though. This is great. With these cleaned up, they only go in one way. So the V faces down and these tabs face towards the inside of the engine. But you really can't mess this up. If you try to put it in the wrong way, it won't go in. And they just slide down with your finger. You shouldn't have to beat these in with a hammer or anything. And there you go. Oh, and if you guys are curious about the variable runner design of this intake, it's really cool. You see this a lot on high revving European V8s, but there's just 2 vacuum actuators. You can see the vacuum lines there, and then they move all together like this. This side gets the same vacuum source, so it does the same thing. And the idea here is long runner versus short runner. So a long runner is gonna give you low end torque, and a short runner is gonna give you high end torque. But on a fixed intake manifold without these runners, you kinda gotta pick a happy medium between the two. So the intake usually isn't that good at doing all of it. It's variable, so it can change depending on what the torque demand is. And this is what these blades look like right now. As you can imagine, they're pretty carboned up. And here's what they look like after a little bit of a cleaning. And once again, this is a realistic cleaning. We're not gonna disassemble this entire intake and risk breaking fragile parts just to get a little tiny bit of black residue on the side of the blades that are still there. I'm talking about stuff like that. Get in there as best as you can with your brushes and brake clean, but these flaps are delicate. They're not very thick, and neither is the rod that they ride on, so you don't want to risk bending anything. It's simply not worth it. So I'm gonna do the other side, and then this thing's going on. Hang on, something else I want to show you guys before we get this intake manifold on is to not be afraid of water if you have a pressure washer. You can use like 5 cans of brake clean as well, but if you have a pressure washer, this is great. I will issue a little bit of a warning though, if you're using water to clean your intake or any engine parts, and machine shops do use water to clean this kind of stuff, it's normal, but you want to dry it right away. And in this case, we're going to do a little bit of lubrication, which I'll show you here in a minute. But if this intake wasn't going to go on for, you know, a week or 2 or a month or a year, I would just wait to do all of this with the water until it's about to go on. But anyway, we're going to dry this up. And this is just a detail tool that my buddy Jason gave me. I'll leave you guys a link down below. It's pretty awesome, but I use it for everything. It creates a ton of pressure. If you are gonna clean an intake like this and then let it sit, I recommend some engine fogging oil. I'm going to use some, even though I'm about to put it on there, it's not a big deal. Trust me, with these kinds of PCV systems, this will be lubricated soon. But you do have moving parts here, and although everything is dry, I just like to be super safe. If this was a standard intake without the runners, if it was plastic or aluminum, you don't need to do this. Another positive, the engine fogging oil, it smells so good. No joke, if this could be a cologne, which I guess it could be, I would wear it. Intake is ready to go on. We have brand new intake manifold gaskets, and they do have little dowels here, so you know which way they fit in, and they will hold themselves. That is very nice. So that is in, and we'll put this side in too. All right, and we're ready. All right, intake manifold time. There's a lot of snaking that's gotta go down here. So we kinda gotta do one of these around the fuel lines and the oil filter housing with this gigantic throttle opening. And you got this stuff going on here. You don't wanna break anything, so be gentle, make sure it clears. This hose goes on this side. Take lots of pictures of stuff like that because you forget later. Oh, she's going down. She's going down. Yes. And our little black breather right here. It's getting in the way of everything. There are a few things you got to do on this intake before you start bolting it in. And one of them is very important or you'll have coolant spewing everywhere. But right there, you see that? We need to push that on, line it up. So I got the hose clamp ready. Before we tighten up that coolant hose, we need to manipulate this intake a little bit to make it easier to put our little PCV box on. So we'll just push it in like that. It's got a seal. I got the bottom one in, but it's nice to be able to raise this up and just don't drop it. Try to thread it in sort of straight. Okay, all right. Gloves are coming off. Oh, I got it, got it. It's turning. There we go, success. And we'll just bring this in by hand. And I know the saying, the gloves are coming off, it's a reference to boxing. Like, now I'm mad, taking the gloves off. But in like working on cars, it's actually like a real thing. Sometimes the gloves are too slippery and the gloves need to come off to get the job done. Just like beating someone up apparently in boxing. This little driver tool is key for this job. Perfect. Click. I've tightened up the hose back there. Our PCV box is on. And now it is time for some intake manifold bolts. It's always a good idea to just look down in the hole, make sure everything lines up like that. And we'll start them all by hand. These are super low torque, so turn your gun down and just stop right there when they stop. There we go. You don't want to hear any ga-ga-ga-ga from the gun. I don't know if that's the sound of what an impact does, but you know what I mean. Once everything is hanging tight, we can do our torquing. And although it doesn't call for this, I'm gonna do this in a couple stages. So this is just 5 Newton meters right now. There's our final 8 Newton meters. That's all she takes, people. With the intake torqued, it's the fun stuff. Clicking in connectors is always satisfying. Didn't forget about you, little buddy. Oh, no satisfying click. Oh man, it's on there, just we didn't get to hear it. Darn. But now this would be the time that you refer back to the pictures that you took on exactly where this stuff sits. I don't remember off the top of my head if that goes there. This is for our brake booster, so it goes through the firewall like that. This thing just popped out of it, great. All right, this hose goes right here. There we go. So that guy tucks back here, gets in the way of everything, you know, typical Audi. All right, before the throttle body goes on, we are going to place this right there. Fuel lines are going on, and these should always go on almost all the way with your fingers, and then you give them a little final tighten like that. With the fuel lines all done, it's time for our cleaned up throttle body, and that goes, well, right here. You guys know where the throttle body goes. Throttle body is torqued and connected. Next up, we have our gigantic PCV tubes, and that's why there's a stud at the top of the throttle body there. One of these clicks into the new breather box, PCV box, filter, however you want to call it, just like that. And then they tie into the beautiful red valve covers. Bam. We have a coolant tank going back into place. This gets plugged into that. Even though this car is gonna get a full detail, you know, I can't leave this coolant bottle looking like that. All right, it comes right off. Not bad. Back to how it was looking before. I cleaned out the air box and we're going in with a nice K&N air filter, brand spanking new and fresh. Typically these don't really add any horsepower or anything like that, but sometimes they can make your engine sound a little cooler. And since this is a dual overhead cam V8 that revs to 8,250 RPM, I kind of want to just see. All right, last bigger piece of the puzzle is the air intake. Took them 18 years to develop this intake. I made that up right now. I have no idea how long it took them. Probably not that long. It's probably gonna take me 18 years to figure out how to get it past all these vacuum lines, but I will at some point. I have pink coolant on the way. I just added a little bit of water. We didn't lose that much. Sounds awesome. All right, we're gonna get a little smoke from the oil and the brake clean from the valve covers. A little smoky back here, nothing too bad though. When you're cleaning the valves, you are gonna get some stuff in the cylinders and it's gonna smoke a little. It's like running like a seafoam through your intake, but you know, a lot harder. All right, sounds good. Just from running it for a few minutes, it sucked down our water and we'll add in some pink European antifreeze. We should be good. Everything is back together under the hood. It's time to go warm this engine up, and then we gotta do an oil change, and then we gotta do an Italian tune-up. All right, hood shock is on order. Oh, almost just killed myself there. There we go. I love the fact this is a manual transmission. I need more manuals in my life. I gotta say, this thing runs so much smoother. It always had like a little bit of a shake going on, and now it's like a V12 smooth with like brand new engine mounts. This is great. All right, we're going for a quick little cruise to get this engine up to operating temperature. I'm here in a gigantic parking lot at AMSOIL to pick up some oil. AMSOIL ships oil out, but they happen to be 5 minutes from my shop, so if I need something right away, I just zip on over. I've just realized this is also a really cool place to take car pictures. Just like that, I have what we need, our European 540, and I restocked a few other things. And with the engine flush, you just want to let it run for about 15, 20 minutes in the engine. And I like to go for a short ride. I don't beat on it or anything like that. And we are at operating temperature. Back at legit 3/4 for the oil change before just a little bit of a beat down. I mean, leisurely cruise. So I had to remove this bracket again to get to the oil filter. I guess it's not in the worst spot in the world. Just, man, I'm gonna have a lot of rags here because, yeah, I don't wanna get oil all over. I just cleaned all this stuff. But anyway, for now, we'll just loosen it up like that and then drain it. I don't recommend doing this hot, but as soon as you turn this drain at all, it starts draining. I think I might do this the slow way. It is so hot. I got that going right into an old container. Okay, anyway, we'll drain this out for a bit. This car does have service history and it was maintained pretty well, but the oil is pretty dark. And if it's never had one of these flushes, that's typically what the first time will look like, but it gets cleaner as you use this. I typically do one of these flushes about every 2 years, something like that. With the oil drained, we can get this filter out of here, right there. Don't trip on anything. Get out of here. Here's our new filter, and you can see here that it is directional. There is a hole inside of there. So I'm gonna pop this in first so I make sure that it's perfectly lined up. So that is centered, it kind of clicks in, and then we can go in with our cap. And you definitely wanna replace the seal. It comes with the oil filter because you don't want that thing to leak and make a mess all over the place. I have a link down below for you guys to get 25% all AMSOIL products, but even if you don't use AMSOIL, just use their free website. It'll give you the capacities and the torque spec for the oil drain and the capacities for all the other fluids, so you don't have to scour the internet getting bad information. It's free, just use it. Anyway, I'll fill this thing up with oil and let's go for a cruise. Drink up my little red valve covered Audi with no more valve cover leaks. God, that thing is so nice. I love the red, guys, I love it. Speaking of valve covers, a little Eclipse sneak peek, look at that. All right, I've run this thing pretty low on fuel just to get rid of all the old stuff, and we're filling up with some 93. Full tank of gas, look at that. Yeah, the gauge and the sender work, that's a plus. All right, guys, oil temperature is warm. We are ready to go. I wanna see 8250. Okay. Oh yeah, no, it does it. Oh, it does it. It does it. It feels good. I mean, it's naturally aspirated, okay, people? So like, you know, obviously we are spoiled these days with our insanely fasted boosted vehicles, but this thing scoots. It scoots. The all-wheel drive system, obviously it'll never spin, especially with a car with an 8,200 RPM. It doesn't have that much low-end torque, so the control is just absolutely perfect. All right, and I basically said something that car reviewers say all the time when they really mean the car is slow, which is that you can control it. You always hear that. It's very controllable. It's like, well, yeah, it doesn't have that much power. But in this case, it doesn't have a ton of power. To today's standards, it still has over 400 horsepower, which is great. But the all-wheel drive is amazing. And let's just, you know, we got to do that again. I missed 1 to 2 there. I let it rev out too high. But the Audi got me covered. Woo! Got it there. Oh, it's fun. It's fun. All right, you guys want to hear this from the outside? So do I. I'm gonna have to like look at this footage as soon as I'm done here, but here you go, from the outside. All right, how was it? How was it? How was it? Sounded good in here. It's a great sounding engine, people. Really nice, really nice. I mean, we better do that again. Yeah. All right, it is an Audi. It does have all-wheel drive. I've been babying it off the line. Let's see. This is the main advantage of the all-wheel drive, right? Is the launch. So let's give it some revs. We'll give it like 3,500. Oh, that launches, man. Yes. Woo! That launch was awesome. Man, it just scoots, no bog down at all. Like that's the worry sometimes with manual transmissions off the line, is that you don't hit the RPM just perfect. But I mean, I am a professional race car driver after all, but that was a great launch. This thing moves, man. All right, guys, so that's pretty much what an Italian tune-up is. It's a actual proper work instruction to fix your car. But if you do have a car that's been sitting around like this forever and you're running an additive in the tank and you get some fresh fuel in there, it's not a bad idea to take it on the highway. You don't have to go crazy with RPM, but maybe just cruise around a little bit at 3,000 RPM and just get everything moving, get all that carbon out. You know, if you didn't just do a carbon cleaning like I just did. And that's pretty much it. An Italian tune-up, which you guys have seen on the channel before with my C63, is just an Italian way of saying it. You're giving it a beat down. Just add the A to everything and it turns it into Italian. All right, guys, that will do it for the Audi RS4. This thing is back in action and I have even more parts on order. Some are here. So in the next Audi video, we are gonna mint out the rest of the car. We still have some more mechanical stuff to do and some cosmetic stuff. This thing is gonna look cherry. Well, not like cherry like my X6, but you know, the blue version of cherry. Blueberry? You guys know what I'm trying to say. We're gonna mint this car out, so I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Share the video with your friends and family and Audi fans. Subscribe if for some reason you haven't already. Yes, the X6 is still here and it hasn't sold, but most importantly, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see all of you in the next video. Audio check really quick. Let's see. You see a trunk popping device anywhere? I don't know, where the trunk button? Oh, here we go. I don't know why I opened the trunk. I meant the fuel. That was maybe an idea. I know it's throwing mist. Oh, and hold. All right, we're now gonna. Next, I'm gonna unplug. Yeah. So now we can get to that. So now we can get to that screw, but. Now it's going in the tin can. Going in the cupcake. Why? Focus. Focus. The lighting is so nice. It's so nice. Oh, there it is. All right, I'm hopeful for the. All right, so Amjo. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. This is the one with the performance improver. Yeah, look at that beautiful, beautiful stem. I didn't do anything to that. Yeah, look at that stem. Look at that, it just comes right off. This is gonna be so, yeah, look at that stem with the PI. All right, so we have our intake ports covered up and that. All right, so we have our intake port, that. And I always like to check the menu. With the fuel lines all done, it is time for our cleaned up, what is this, throttle body? Hey, Max. Okay. How's that for an audio sync, Max? Like that beat? Just drop the beat.